Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today we're diving into something that literally determines whether a modern company thrives or dies. We are living in this crazy era where tech evolves overnight, old business frameworks are just dissolving, and global supply chains are more tangled than ever. So, how does an organization actually survive all of that? Well, it's not just about having the flashiest new product or cutting labor costs to the bone, it's about a foundational philosophy. Today, we are breaking down the absolute survival guide to quality in organizations. Imagine a cinematic cold open for a second. A massive multi-million-dollar assembly line suddenly grinds to a dead halt. Or maybe a highly anticipated app completely crashes on launch day. Or a vital service fails a customer right when they need it the most. We really have to ask ourselves, what is the true cost of doing things wrong? For the longest time, quality was just viewed as a boring defensive compliance metric, right? It was all about defect reduction just to avoid disaster. But if you're only looking at quality as error prevention, you are totally missing the bigger picture.
And this is where the paradigm totally shifts. Philip Crosby, in his famous book, Quality is Free, completely flips the script. He says, and I love this, quality is not only free, it is an honest-to-everything profit maker. Think about it. Every single penny you don't waste on doing things wrong or redoing them goes straight to your bottom line as profit. Crosby actually argued that if you focus on making quality a certainty, you can boost your profits by an amount equal to 5 to 10% of your total sales. That is a massive influx of cash, literally for free. Quality isn't just a safety net, it is an absolute profit-making machine. All right, let's jump into Section 1, Anatomy of Manufacturing Quality, the Master Blueprint. Since quality management really got its start in manufacturing, we've got to understand the intricate world building behind how a physical product actually comes to life. Quality is definitely not just some final checkpoint at the very end of an assembly line. It is this huge interconnected web, from the suppliers up at the top, feeding into purchasing, flowing all the way through design and production, right down to the customers. Every single function relies heavily on the others. If just one gear in this machine neglects quality, the entire system suffers. Let's zoom in on how this plays out across different departments. Marketing and sales? They aren't just out there pitching products. Their quality role is absolutely crucial because they define what fitness for use actually means by figuring out exactly what consumers want and what they'll pay for it. Then, product design takes those insights and engineers the product to prevent defects before they even exist. A prime example here is Motorola. They set this incredibly ambitious Six Sigma goal, which basically meant aiming for a level of quality with no more than 3.4 defects per million opportunities. Wild, right? And obviously, none of this works if purchasing isn't out there securing top-tier materials from quality-conscious suppliers. So, how does this actually translate to the factory floor? Well, it happens in a sequence of very specific steps. First, production planning steps in to make sure the exact right materials and tools are ready right when they're needed, keeping everything flowing smoothly. Then, tool engineering maintains the precision of the tools themselves, because worn-out tools give you defective parts. Next up is manufacturing and assembly. And here is the golden rule. Once you're in production, 0 defects should be acceptable. You have to build quality in from the very start. Relying on that final step, finished goods inspection, to just weed out bad items, that is incredibly wasteful. Honestly, inspection should just be an audit, not a net to catch mistakes you already baked into the product. But hey, the journey doesn't magically end once the product leaves the loading dock. Things like logistics, installation, and after-sales service are what actually lock in customer loyalty. You could build the absolute most perfect piece of hardware on the planet, but if it gets smashed in transit, or if the customer gets confusing installation instructions, your perceived quality just tanked to 0. Really, a solid after-the-sale experience is often the biggest factor in keeping people coming back for more. Now, let's completely pivot. Welcome to Section 2, the Service Sector Shift, Intangible Challenges. What happens when we leave the factory floor entirely? Today, over 80% of the non-farm workforce in the U.S. is in the service sector. But historically, service organizations were a solid decade behind manufacturing when it came to adopting quality approaches. Why is that? Well, compare the two. Manufacturing is all about uniformity. You make a tangible thing, and you can measure its quality against incredibly strict design specs, right down to a fraction of an inch. But service quality, it's highly intangible and intensely customized. Whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, or someone working in food service, they have to tailor what they do for every single person. Quality there is judged against the customer's completely subjective expectations. You can hold a manufactured product, and if it's broken, you return it. But you can only remember a service. And if the service was poor, all you can really do is offer apologies and try to make up for it. That brings us to Section 3, Quality as Competitive Advantage, the data reveal. Mastering this whole complex machinery, whether you're making physical goods or providing services, isn't just about cutting costs anymore. It is your ultimate competitive advantage. It's the shield that keeps you from becoming obsolete. And look at these two paths to profitability. On one side, improving the quality of your design boosts your product's perceived value. That means you can charge a premium price, grab more market share, and drive up revenue. On the flip side, improving your quality of conformance, meaning you make it right the first time, drops your manufacturing and service costs because you aren't wasting time and money on scrap, rework, or warranties. So higher revenues plus lower costs, that equals massively higher profitability. And if you're wondering just how massive we're talking, take a look at this number. 91%. Let that sink in. Researchers Kevin Hendricks and Vinod Singhal did this celebrated study tracking about 600 publicly traded companies that had won quality awards, and they compared them to a control group over a 10-year period. The quality award winners saw a jaw-dropping 91% average growth in operating income. The control group, only 43%. The quality-focused companies also saw a 69% jump in sales and significantly higher returns on assets. The proof isn't just theoretical, it's undeniably right there in the data. Which leads us to the climax of our explainer. Section 4, the Xerox turnaround, a corporate rescue. So what happens when a massive giant completely loses its way? Through the 1990s, Xerox was growing steadily, but around the turn of the century, a tech downturn hit, and top management really took their eye off the ball when it came to quality. The result was a catastrophic drop in their stock price. They were on the brink of collapse. So how did they pull out of that tailspin? In 2003, new leadership launched a total rescue mission using Lean Six Sigma. The core of this was the DMAIC protocol: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And they didn't just use this in the factory. They trained over 1,000 senior leaders and injected these rigorous, data-driven tools into literally every business area, from manufacturing to customer service. By tying individual employee objectives directly to corporate quality goals, Xerox pulled off one of the greatest corporate renewals in modern business history. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Personal Quality Matters, the individual obligation. We've talked a lot about global supply chains, massive corporate strategies, and sweeping data. But honestly, all of that is just an illusion if we ignore the single most important factor: personal responsibility. Robert Galvin, the former CEO of Motorola, hit the nail on the head here. He said, quality is a very personal obligation. If you can't talk about quality in the first person, then you have not moved to the level of involvement of quality that is absolutely essential. Management often gets trapped in this flawed idea that quality is something you do to your employees, but in reality, it's something you have to do with them. It has to become an internalized, deeply personal value for every single person. Unless quality takes root at the personal level, it's never going to become the true culture of an organization. It really does begin with you. So I want to leave you with this lingering thought to close us out. Are you practicing quality in all activities of your daily life? Think about that as you take these lessons back to your own work. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, everyone. Keep pushing for excellence, and I will see